Welcome back to more Club World Cup fantasy content. This will be my team selection for Matchday 3. I've got two options. Use 2 free transfers like I did for the previous Matchday, or activate the Wildcard chip. And in my chip strategy video, I discussed using the Wildcard very early in either Matchday 2 or 3. And I have to be honest, I am looking at using it at the moment. I'll be assessing both options and comparing the two avenues, because there is still that kind of possibility or argument to save the Wildcard for the knockout stages, which is all covered in my previous videos like the How to Play guide and the Chip Strategy podcast. But what you can see on screen is my mini league. You can still join, and all your points from Matchday 1 will count. And a big shout out to those that have joined, and those especially in the upper echelons of this table. And there are some massive scores there, not only for Matchday 1, but across both game weeks in general. And I'll discuss my performance in Matchday 2 and also my transfer plans in every single position to optimize my squad for the last game week of the group stages. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also the notification bell so you never miss a single uploaded live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and everything else I cover. That includes UCL Fantasy, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the Championships, for links to my videos, amongst many other perks, the Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. Let's get this video to the 200 likes on YouTube, and we are getting closer to 34,000 subscribers. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. We all love the summer, right? Well, maybe not in my case, because it can cause some overheating issues, and that means the camera freezes and stuff like that, so hopefully that doesn't detract from the overall experience. But there's definitely one summer I don't like, and that's Jan Sommer, because in UCL Fantasy I bought him, I started him over Donnarumma. That was a mistake. And in the Club World Cup, in 2 matches, no clean sheets there for Inter Milan, but they did win against Urawa Red Diamonds. But thankfully, I had Franco Armani, who came in for a 7-pointer in that 0-0 draw against Monterrey only this morning, and I finally got a goalkeeper return in this tournament. But now for Matchday 3, I would have Armani and Sommer playing against each other, so it's all about picking one of them and then benching the other, unless I make a transfer in that position. But it does seem like a low priority compared to the other transfers I want to make in the outfield positions. But I still think Armani is a solid choice as your backup goalkeeper. But for Matchday 3, I think Marchesín would be the standout facing Auckland City. In my defensive line, it was kind of poor compared to Matchday 1, which was very bad in general, but at least I had some defenders getting some clean sheets. Svensson got 3 points through an assist, but conceded 3 goals to Mamelodi Sundowns, and I'll see how Gvardiol and Cambiasso gets on. But in Matchday 1, they were terrible. I captained Cambiasso, let's not forget, for 0 points, and in the case of Gvardiol, he didn't even play a single minute, so both of them got 0 points overall, and I didn't sub on Gvardiol in the end for Matchday 1, but I will see the lineups for Matchday 2, and if they are playing, they will be subbed on respectively for those that blanked in my defense. But in the midfield, it was a bit better. So Di Maria got 17 points, one of my transfers in, and targeting that Auckland City fixture. But I'm not going to lie to you, on Friday, I didn't go on the game, so I didn't change the captaincy to a Benfica player. But thankfully, when I came back to my senses, you know, someone in their 20s, they do some foolish things in their lives, I did captain Elise, and he got 9 points against Boca Juniors, and Mastantuono and Due blank. So they were disappointing. I think Mastantuono played very well. He was awarded the superior player of the match, whatever that means. But at least Elise and Di Maria did the business. Kerem Aktürkoğlu, though, he has been an absolute flop, and I actually didn't want him in that Matchday 1 deadline stream because his ownership went over 5%. But we all know what happened there. Let's not go over that again. At least they finally got the deadline right for Matchday 2. And in my forward line, it was also looking really solid, with Pavlidis getting 11 points. I was going to captain him or Di Maria, of course, against Auckland City, and Garassi got 8 points there with a goal and an assist of his own. And we'll see how Haaland does. I think he'll start against Al Ain, and if so, I am tempted to switch the captaincy from Elise to Erling Haaland. Otherwise, I'll stick with the 9-pointer from Michael Elise, who is currently one of the best players in world football. And on my bench, I had Sommer, Francisco Moura. Also, I had a few other poor options in Stanisic and Aktürkoğlu. So in the end, we'll see how Cambiasso, Gvardiol, and Haaland get on, if they start, of course, and the captaincy could also change. But I currently have 75 points in Matchday 2, so a massive improvement upon how I did in the opening game week. So I did go from around 85,000, terrible rank, to 21k. So that is a significant improvement, and my aim will be to finish in the top 10k by the end of this competition. But I will need a big performance in Matchday 3, and that's where the wildcard could come in handy. And my current plan is to activate the chip and make wholesale changes in every single position. That will start off with the goalkeepers, so I'll highlight one transfer in each position. So Summer to Majacin makes a lot of sense. Not only do I save a lot of money in the process, but I also get a much better fixture with Boca Juniors facing Auckland City, and they know the task. They need to win 6 or 7-0 depending on the Bayern Munich Benfica result. And Jan Sommer against River Plate, I think that could be a goal conceded once more, but you never know. Sometimes in the more difficult games, so to speak, you get that return when you least expect it. Just look at Harry Kane, who blanked in a 10-0 win against Auckland City. Then he scores an assist against Boca Juniors, winning player of the match in the process. But that is one goalkeeper transfer I'm looking to make. And then looking at the other positions, like the defensive line, Gvardiol to Joao Cancelo. So one current City player to a former Man City player who currently plays for Al Hilal. He has 5% ownership at the time of this recording, and he's facing Pachuca in Matchday 3. I also save a bit of money in the process because Cancelo is 5.5 million, so that's a 0.6 million overall difference. And I do like Cancelo's high potential and ceiling in Matchday 3, and we'll see how Al Hilal do in Matchday 2 as well. Mastantuono to Dembele does seem like one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of price tag, but Ousmane Dembele, if he's fit, and reports indicate he's back in training, I think he'll start in Matchday 3 as a result, and that could be a game changer by activating the wildcard, going for a triple up in PSG overall, and Dembele could be part of that. But otherwise, I would be looking at Kvaratskhelia and doubling up on their attack that way instead. But I think Dembele is the standout if he's in that starting lineup, and hopefully we get some reports. Actually, screw that. We will get the lineup, actually, or get some tidbits during the deadline stream. So if we do get any concrete information, I'll be letting you know tomorrow night. Now, going into the forward line now, Pavlidis, who I only just bought in, I would be moving him on to yet another striker who faces Auckland City. It didn't work with Harry Kane as the captain in Matchday 1, but Pavlidis did the business, of course, in Matchday 2. And Merentiel scored across both game weeks, and now he's facing the worst team in the competition. Now, will this be the time where he finally disappoints? It's possible, but he's yet another scouting bonus player. So if he gets more than 4 points as his base score, he'll give you 2 additional points on top of it. And my best wildcard team video highlighted a lot of differentials, around 7 or 8, if I can even count, which is probably not the case, but check out that video and you'll see all the differentials highlighted. And that is used as the foundation of this wildcard team that you're going to see in the next section, which also happens to be my team selection for Matchday 3. Towards the end of this video, I'll show you how my non-wildcard team would look like, and spoiler alert, it looks much worse overall. But I could have Majacin as my starting goalkeeper, but it all depends on my second choice. So at the moment, another spoiler, I would have Coble as my backup, but I could go for Weatherton instead, which gives me a captaincy option for the early games at 2 a.m. in the morning on the 24th of June. So if that's the case, I would start Weatherton and have Majacin as my backup because he plays later in the match day. So just like the captaincy, what you want to do is have your starting goalkeeper play first, and you also want to have your starting 11 full of players featuring on the first or second day of a match day. It doesn't particularly matter, as long as you don't have players on the 23rd of June or the 24th on your bench, and once their team has played, you haven't subbed them on, so basically you lose out on their points entirely, and you miss out the opportunity to manually change your teams through the substitutions and the captaincy. So be very wary of that. It's all covered in my how to play guide, and the same goes for all my videos for Club World Cup Fantasy. Now, in my defense, I am making wholesale changes here with Marquinhos, Colwill and Blanco. They all qualify for the scouting bonus, but Marquinhos has 5% ownership, so he's on the precipice. If he goes up to 5.1% or over, that means he will not qualify for the scouting bonus, and in that scenario, I just rather go for Bacho because he saves me a bit of money, or I just go to Hakimi or Nuno Mendes, who offer even more attacking potential. But I do like Colwill despite his kind of rashness sometimes and a lot of yellow cards, and Blanco has a bit of attacking potential facing the worst team in this competition, which forms a defensive double-up for Boca Juniors. Now, looking at the midfield, I'm also very happy with it. Only Elise and Doué remain from my previous squad, but I'm also adding someone like Arias, for example, who has less than 5% ownership at the time of this recording, and Ousmane Dembele if he's available, and the reports indicate that he will start in matchday 3. Otherwise, I'd go to Kvaratskhelia. I know Cole Palmer and Bellingham would be slightly appealing, but their form has been dismal in this calendar year. But I think it's still worth including one of them because of their fixture, and I think they have the ability to get massive returns in the Club World Cup. But I do like all of these midfielders. They all have that high ceiling and they can produce double-digit returns. They have proven it in UCL Fantasy, or in the case of Arias in matchday 2 of the Club World Cup. And to complete this starting 11, I've got a differential forward line of Guirassy, Delap, and also Merentiel. So there is no Messi, Mbappe, who is currently hospitalized and hopefully he recovers very soon. Vinicius Jr., Harry Kane. He is probably the most likely to re-enter my squad as I started the campaign with him. But I do like Guirassy's, consistency. He has been one of the most prolific strikers in 2025. And Delap, I know he's only just joined Chelsea, but with Jackson suspended, I think he's going to start against ES Tunis, but also get a lot of minutes, and maybe it could be close to the 90-minute mark, and I think he can get the bulk of the big chances. So if Cole Palmer's not tucking them away himself, I think Delap will be the next most likely, despite the fact that Pedro Neto is the only one to have scored across both games for the Blues. And Merentiel is showing the form, and he's got that fixture against Auckland City, so it's definitely worth going for that Boca Juniors attacker. And Merentiel will be the best of a relatively bad bunch, dare I say. But you've also got Marchesín and Blanco to triple up on Boca Juniors overall. And that's something I definitely wouldn't have done in matchday 1 or 2, but it's worth doing so against Auckland City. On my bench, I've got the likes of Coble, Jude Bellingham, and not his brother, who was the one who got 11 points, or I think a 10-pointer in matchday 2, Garcia and Cancelo. So a lot of them do qualify for the scouting bonus, but I could go for Weatherton over Coble. That'll give me yet another differential player with less than 5% ownership, and also a captaincy option in the early hours of the 24th of June for the Group A matches. So that's also worth considering. And towards the beginning of my best wildcard team video, I went through all the groups and the times of the matches and the way you want to go about the captaincy. So be sure to check that out as well. But the last thing to discuss is the captaincy, which has become a little bit redundant because of the rules. You can change it an unlimited number of times. So for the Group B games that kick things off for matchday 3, you can go for a PSG player if you wish. If not, Atletico Madrid or Botafogo, depending on who you back in that particular match. But I would go for a PSG player, and Dembele is my favourite if he starts. Otherwise, one of Doué or Kvaratskhelia is probably enough. And if not, Hakimi, if you end up going for him, and that all depends on Marquinhos' ownership. If it's over 5%, it's probably not worth going for him over Bacho or the other PSG defenders. But after that, I'll just switch it to the next player who features that I prefer the most from those particular groups. And remember, every single kind of game within a group will all take place at the same time. So that will change things a little bit in terms of the captaincy dynamic, but you want to cover as many windows as possible. Without the wildcard, this is how my team would look like for matchday 3, and I think it pales in comparison, to be quite honest with you. I would have Sommer and Armani facing each other, and I'd likely pick Sommer despite his disappointments in matchdays 1 and 2, and a back three of Francisco Moura, Svensson, and Stanisic, who at least qualifies for the scouting bonus, but he hasn't been the best Bayern Munich pick, to say the least. Mastantuono, Di Maria, Elise, Doué, and Kerem Aktürkoğlu. It's a decent midfield, but I would definitely want to change at least 2 of them. I think Di Maria could be worth keeping against Bayern Munich. He is showing the form, and he's also on penalties. And I think Pavlidis and Guirassy up front is still pretty solid, with a bench of Armani, Cambiaso, Gvardiol, and Haaland. So if they all start, that could still score a decent number of points in matchday 3. But I think the ceiling is significantly higher by getting those 3 Boca Juniors players and also 2 more PSG players in this case. And there are a few things that I just wouldn't be able to do without the wildcard chip. And I'd probably buy a Boca player and maybe a PSG player here, perhaps take a -3 or -6 hit. But I think it's probably best to wildcard here. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think this team has any chance of competing with my wildcard team? Or do you prefer the wildcard squad I showed you recently? I was going to say a couple of days ago, but no, it's a double recording today, and both of them will be released on Sunday, the 22nd of June in the UK. And keep your eyes peeled for that deadline stream tomorrow. Across multiple websites like Opta, you will have some changes in terms of the tournament favourites, in terms of the probabilities of winning this competition. But at the beginning of this competition, we did see Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, Bayern and Chelsea occupying those top 5 spots. And you've also got some interesting names in there like Flamengo, who are quite high up actually. But European squads are definitely favoured. Now, there are certain things that have changed. Of course, Atletico Madrid need a massive victory against Botafogo to progress to the next round. So I think their chances will be significantly lower now of winning the whole thing. And of course, even for qualifying, the chances do look quite slim. But I also want to highlight the most owned players and kind of talk about the most template picks in each position, and then some differentials to consider in the goalkeeper, defence, midfield and forward line. But in terms of overall players, Hakimi is now number 1 with 47.3% ownership. Mbappe is down to 2nd, but he still is owned by a lot of people in this game. Elise, Kane and Nuno Mendes are in the top 5, with Dumfries, who is also injured and missing all these matches. He's quite high up. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Cucurella, Sommer, who has been a big disappointment, Doué, Gvardiol, Haaland, Palmer, Donnarumma, Mastantuono, Ousmane Dembele and Musiala. So a lot of those names have actually been pretty poor in this competition so far, or perhaps they haven't featured whatsoever. In goal, it's also a similar list. You've seen Sommer, of course, Donnarumma, Armani, Courtois, El Shaarawy, who has quite high ownership actually. That's much higher than I expected. Neuer, Kobel, Edison, Oblak and Bono. The rest have less than 5% ownership and they'll qualify for the scouting bonus. With the most picked defenders, we've got Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, Dumfries, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Cucurella. So pretty much all of them have been fairly disappointing. Gvardiol didn't feature in Matchday 1. Francisco Moura is fairly decent at least. He got something in the opening Matchday. Otamendi has been brilliant so far. Bastoni, Howson, DeMarco, Guerrero, Ruben Dias, Carreras, Rudiger, Sacha Boey, and also Ryerson. So some interesting names on that list. And in the midfield, Elise, Doué, Palmer, Mastantuono, Ousmane Dembele, Musiala, Kvaratskhelia, Vitinha, Bellingham, Di Maria has been outstanding so far. Ashur, Conceição, Rodrigo Moura, De Arrascaeta, Enzo Fernandez, Foden, and Pedro Neto, who has scored across both matches. And with the forwards, Mbappe, Kane, Haaland, Marmoush, and Messi, they make up the top 5 most selected players in this position, with Alvarez, Guirassy, Abu Ali, Pavlidis, Lautaro Martinez, Colomwani, Vinicius Jr., and Aguilar. The rest will qualify for the scouting bonus. And speaking of which, let's discuss some top differentials across all positions, and some of them are almost at the precipice. That includes Marquinhos, Joao Cancelo, Sergio Ramos, Julian Brandt, and Esteval. There's also Robert Sanchez, Di Gregorio, Cambiasso, Trezeguet, Müller, Barella, Ustari, Diogo Costa, who missed both match days so far due to injury, Jeremy Doku, Rodri, Reece James, and Belali. And going into every single position, of course, some of these names will overlap. We've got Sanchez, Di Gregorio, Ustari, Costa, Trubin, Fabio, Weverton, who is the highest scoring goalkeeper in the game right now. Marchesín only has 2 points in this competition, but he faces Auckland City, so he's worth the investment for Matchday 3. There's also Williams, Claudio Ramos, who is replacing the injured Diogo Costa, Agustin Rossi, and the list keeps on going. With the defensive line though, we've got a lot of options like Marquinhos, Joao Cancelo, Ramos, Cambiasso, James, Colwill, Thiago Silva, Stanisic, Bensabani, Upamecano, Ibrahim, Piquerez, Lloyd Kelly, and there are other options that might be worth considering for your Matchday 3 squad. The same goes for Julian Brandt, Barella, Doku, Rodri, Belali, Coman, Arda Güler, Kalanoglu, who is currently injured, Caicedo, Busquets, De Paul, Bernardo Silva, Madueke, Kokchu, Gittins, Arias, who is one of my favourite options for Matchday 3, and you've also got Fabian Ruiz on this list. And to conclude this section, we've got the forwards in Esteval, Trezeguet, who's on penalties for Al Ahly, Thomas Müller, Thuram, who is currently injured at the moment, and I think the lap is worth a punt with Nicholas Jackson suspended for the final game of the group stages. Yildiz, Griezmann, who hasn't scored in 18 consecutive games for Atletico Madrid, but there are some informed players like Merentiel, who has scored in both matches in the Club World Cup so far, and he faces Auckland City. There's Jackson, who you want to completely avoid, but Igor Jesus is a brilliant forward at that price tag only 4.1 million, and ever since my Predict the Lineups video, I was highlighting him as one of the best budget forwards in the game. There's Rodrigo, Mitrovic, Sorloth, Araujo, Suarez, Vlahovic, and Savio, but some of the options I just mentioned I wouldn't recommend, either because they're injured, they're not really guaranteed starters, or in the case of Savio, you don't really know what you're going to get from him, and his goal scoring record is pretty poor. But that summarizes the most template picks and some differentials in every single position if you really want to identify those players who can qualify for the scouting bonus. Over the course of this tournament, there will be some changes to the power rankings, but at the very beginning, before a ball was even kicked in the Club World Cup, we had PSG, Man City, Bayern Munich, Inter, and Real Madrid in the top 5, with Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Benfica, and Juventus in the top 10, and you can see the rest of this list. I think Flamengo should be much higher, and near the bottom, of course, we've got Auckland City. They're by far the worst team based on the rankings. You've also got Al Ain, Ulsan HD, Wydad Casablanca, and Urawa Red Diamonds in that sort of bottom 5 list, and 2 of those teams are in Man City's group, but that'll be irrelevant for Matchday 3 when they face Juventus. That should be a good game. You can also see all the groups, and we do start off with Group B for Matchday 3, and that's why I recommend captaining a PSG player. I think Atletico Botafogo could be quite tough to call, and based on recent form, you would favour the Brazilian side, and then you want to move the captaincy on to the other choices as discussed in my best wildcard team video. But the last thing I want to show you is the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating for Matchday 3. So you want to hone in on those teams with a green fixture, so to speak. That includes the likes of Al Ain, Al Hilal. You've also got Boca Juniors, and I think there should be a different colour because Auckland City have been terrible so far. You've also got Chelsea, Borussia Dortmund, also Flamengo. In this case, I think Los Angeles FC have proven to be arguably the worst team in their group. There's also Fluminense, and near the bottom of this list, you've got Urawa Red Diamonds facing Monterrey, but you might want to actually stack up on the Mexican team's outfit instead and go for their players like Sergio Ramos and Berterame instead of Urawa Red Diamonds here. And you've also got Wydad Casablanca assets against Al Ain, depending on which team you will favour in that matchup. But even some of those that aren't necessarily green, they can be classified as good fixtures. For example, in the case of Monterrey, which I just mentioned, maybe Porto against Al Ahly, and they need to win this game to qualify to the next round. So it all depends on your opinions as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which teams do you think could be underrated in Matchday 3? And do you think certain clubs like Bayern Munich will rotate or go fully strong as they have done in the previous rounds? We have reached the end of this team selection video, and there are more graphics I want to show you, but I'll leave them for the deadline stream tomorrow. And to be quite honest with you, I think the laptop just is getting overheated to another level. Now, it's not even that bad in the UK, but my room is like 40 degrees all the time, so I think that's where the issues are stemming from, and I will be tweaking some things and making sure they do not affect the viewing experience for the deadline stream as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below about the videos, the content you're seeing, and also about your transfer plans for Matchday 3. How are you going to approach this tournament with all the chips? And every single video I've done will basically inform you of how to approach this competition, and you'll be in a great position with information about every single club, the best assets in every single position, and you can identify budget picks, differentials, and get those scouting bonus points in the process. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or live stream for Club World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and the Champions League. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, Club World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you tomorrow for the Matchday 3 deadline stream, and keep your eyes peeled for more team selections and wildcard squads.